We're live. Kelsey, you need to tell me if it shows up on the right one, just to make sure that we're in the right area. But otherwise, hello, we are live. Don't mind our overlay. This is going to be China Talk. We apologize for the delay. The Regionals World Show. I believe this is episode, I don't know, 20? No, I think it's actually 14. Or 13, yes, one of those. 14. Yeah, I'm going to be your host. My name's Frostgrin. Joining next to me, I believe, is going to be Drexen, representing Esports Heaven, editor-in-chief over there. Next to him is going to be Kelsey Moser, representing On Gamers. And we have a very special guest. Wave special guest.
Hi.
Thomas Watts joining us from LOL Esports. He is going to be our, can I call you the Korean expert?
Yes, actually, that would be cool.
Lee Monte Cristo of our show this time around.
Yay.
Nope? Okay, that's good.
You can call me a mini Monte Cristo, even though I'm probably taller than him. You know,
you just call him a Bama Monte Cristo.
Yeah, there you go. Roll Tide.
Mama Monty? Wait, does that work? Okay, no. Let's just break it down. Before we get into World's group stage, let's just talk about what happened at Regionals, because we had a lot of predictions, and of course it's been like a long period from this show to last time. So, refresher. Invictus Gaming, LGD, OMG, and Starhorn Royal Club were all vying for the last two spots. Of course, only two teams could make it out of there to join EDG to that first place seed. IG shit the bed. LGD almost made it. Dreams were crushed. What was my favorite Twitter comment? In the last game against LGD and OMG, it was like, here guys, hold my beer from Cool, and then he proceeded to like 1v9 them into World. I mean, what did you guys think? Let's just start with Invictus Gaming, because we used to talk about Invictus Gaming a lot, and of course I loved that team, but then we kind of stopped, and of course Thomas is like, oh, I'm just gonna steer out of this conversation real quick. IG looked awful. We kind of hyped them up to be like this dark horse that, you know, no one knew what they were doing. They were showing up in all of these outside tournaments, and they were supposed to be, you know, better than this, but that was typical Chinese aggression. That was typical dumb Chinese aggression.
Well, and I mean, the thing is like, statistically, that's something you would expect from IG, because usually they do very well in the playoffs, and like they appear to be holding back a good bit of their strategy and their play just so they can utilize it in the playoffs. It just like didn't happen. And I mean, I know there was rumors that they weren't practicing or whatever, but like, wow, it really seems true. Like, if you look at the way they were playing, it looked like they were worse than they were at the start of the regular split, with like vision included. They're almost completely blind. So I don't know if they just like gave up or what happened, or if there's like internal drama, but it was really disappointing. Like, even their game versus LGD looked kind of terrifying. I was very unhappy with it, and I think it's safe to say that in all of the existing LPL splits, that was probably their worst playoff performance.
I agree with that. Kelsey, what do you think?
Relative to other teams.
They just, I mean, if people didn't watch the game, Kelsey, you're muted as well. Really what IG did was, it was like see hero, kill hero, and it was very much the clear definition of what people expected from China versus what China has actually become, which is why we are on this show, you know, saying, you know, China's a real threat to be reckoned with. But then IG comes out, and they literally just, one after the other, high-fiving each other into certain death and 1v5s.
Yes. My favorite... So, I mean, let's be honest, IG wasn't that good this split anyway. Like, they had good games.
But that's how it's supposed to go. Like, that's how the legend tells it. And then in the playoffs, they just do really well and crush everybody. Well, not everybody, but you know.
And then the other thing is that I have a bet to fulfill. I'm probably not going to do the half-naked thing, mostly because of recent things that happened.
Don't bet Kelsey for anything.
Twitter and Ask.fm, but I'm going to, like, compromise. I'm rolling up my sleeves here, okay?
Oh, show that skin. Oh, God.
Oh, my God,
yeah.
Can we keep it PG?
This show just got real.
Oh,
show
God.
got real. Okay.
What? Please don't. Sit
go.
down, please.
Yubo is a god. Yubo is a god. Yubo is a god. Yubo, you're a god. You're a god. Okay.
If you thought you got shit on Ask FM before, you're done.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
You are so fucked.
I had no idea that was unscripted.
I'm sorry.
Twitter meltdown in 3.
Yeah, literally none of us thought that would happen. So just so everybody knows, it was. I didn't even know.
This was not mentioned in pre-production, guys.
I think we literally came into the show and I was like, we're gonna have to use the old overlay. It has Esports Heaven's logo on it. Are you okay with that, Drexen? And then Kelsey stands up and does that. So this is brought to you by Esports Heaven.
Oh man.
Okay, so I don't have to do this.
Explain why you made that bet in the context of our conversation.
Okay, so I made that bet because I don't know. As soon as I made the bet, I was like, I don't even actually think IG is gonna win.
So you bet
And
that
it
IG was gonna win.
Even though I didn't actually think they were. Like, Hugo
Against
makes
who?
me make
You need to be
really
very
dumb
specific.
decisions. I thought they were gonna make Worlds. So I thought
Because
that they.
I'm trying to allude to something or to lead you to something
going
where I
to
get to
be
say I
to-
told you so.
I thought they were going to be OMG.
Oh,
Okay.
really? You thought they were going to beat OMG
Yes.
because you
I
thought
thought
that
they were
OMG
going to beat
couldn't perform in a
OMG, and
best
I
of
thought
three.
they were going to beat Starhorn Royal Club. Which, obviously, those are both faulty assumptions. Like, I thought LGD would beat them. I thought that if they went down into the lower bracket, they would get kicked in, their teeth kicked in, but I thought they might be able to do well against OMG and Starhorn, and I think in part because of, like, the skill factor. Like, Invictus Gaming has really talented players. I want to make that clear. Like, they have very talented players, but their team is just, like, awful.
They
like,
just make really
awful.
stupid, poor life decisions and how they go about things on the map.
And you still not have a coach? Is that right? Or
Well, they have an analyst.
Okay.
And I don't know. They used to have a coach, and now OMG has that coach. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of on the fence about whether or not that was good anyway.
Yeah, Kelsey and I
So-
had this really long discussion the other night where we talk about how Invictus Gaming's pick ban phase is possibly like one of the worst pick ban phases in LPL. And then, of course, like, the coach comes over, because OMG used to be, you know, pretty decent at that. So I don't know if it's that one guy that is just going around to every single LPL team and, like, ruining behind the scenes for them. But OMG's pick ban has also taken quite a drop. But we talked about IG. So yeah, IG's performance, I mean, we were expecting a lot more from them. They blindsided, and it's unfortunate because they effectively blindsided us with like typical IG. It's like, of course, we should have expected this. Let's talk about LGD because I feel like the roller coaster that was LGD's almost, like, I think it was an apt description to say that in the third place seed between OMG and LGD. LGD looked really good. It looked like they were going to have it, and then Cool was like, guys, step back, I got this.
Yeah, pretty much. I can't really disagree with you there. I was like, oh my god, LGD the dream, and then yeah,
They
Cool
were
was just
so
like
close.
he just put on like a size 15 boot and just like stepped all over their Chinese heads. It was pretty brutal. But I do also want to give a lot of credit to get going because yeah, he does exactly what a top laner needs to do, and he's been doing it all set. I'd say I think he had a really bad slump during the actual LPL playoffs, but I think he looked a little better during the regionals. So,
Kelsey? Thomas?
Well, I have to say I didn't watch these games in particular, but I have very little to contribute to regionals. I apologize. I was absorbed elsewhere. But any time you have a guy that can just go beast mode like Cool has done that in the past. That's the wild card. It's you break down teams and you look at it and you say, I can account for everything but this guy channeling his inner LeBron James and going and dropping a triple double on us. You know, you can't account for that. So there you go. There you have it.
Kelsey? My notes say do regionals in brief, and so I'm wondering like how brief you guys. I'd like keep trying to come on, give me something, and they're just
Okay.
stare straight
well,
ahead.
we talked about IG sucking. We talked about OMG brute forcing stuff.
I mean,
we
really,
talked
the only other key point for regionals was the Starhorn Royal Club versus EDG game, which,
Right.
I mean, at what point? I can't say that Starhorn, like, obviously mistakes were made that game. Uzi getting out of position, being caught, things like that. But at some point, you would just have to say both teams played incredibly well. One team just played better. It wasn't like an issue of like this team made this mistake. You know, it wasn't like a Cloud9 versus TSM issue that they could have gone and like taken all these objectives. This was literally Starhorn probably playing the best series that they've ever played, and EDG just like showing up to be the pseudo Koreans that they've now become. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
yeah, I think it's actually funny that EDG is the most Korean team now after so many teams brought in Korean imports, and EDG is just purely Chinese. So it's just funny how that turns out.
Kelsey?
I think it was interesting to see. Starhorn did better, I think, than a lot of people thought they would. I think that Starhorn can take EDG out in particular in like specific circumstances, just because of how they play. So if they're extremely on point, like they'll take out EDG and OMG will take them out. Obviously, we had the reverse happen in both instances. We talked about how I still think OMG is bad in worse in best of threes than best of fives. Yeah. But Starhorn did well, except like that second game, you almost think that EDG gave them every single pick they wanted, and that's how they won, and then EDG just kind of came back.
I definitely think that's what happened.
The other point to make out, though, is that Starhorn was ahead early every single game, so it was just EDG playing the way they like to play, which is to stall out and then play really well in team fights.
Well, that's it. From Korea, a lot of conversations I have with all of you off the air is that EDG is a lot like a mini Samsung Blue. And when you break down Samsung Blue is enormously consistent. They're not flashy per se, they're just consistent. In order to beat them, you have to spike above their skill level. And looking at that series, Starhorn did that once and almost did it again. The way you beat a mini Blue or an EDG is you punch them really hard early before they get rolling, and they just monster you in team fights.
Can we talk about some of those team fights too, just as a brief thing, because we saw some really cool things. Like EDG, if we have any new viewers, I don't think that we have. I think we have a pretty consistent, like 8 people that show up that are just like yelling from the back, like, cool story, bro. But EDG's compositions, like, they're part of the reason why I love China and why I love to cast China. Like, as a caster, like, China is an amazing region because everything is so creative in the facets and how they all work together. EDG used a Twitch Zillion composition where Name was the hard engage for their team. And if you guys missed this game, this was so good. They would speed Twitch up in stealth, and Name was so confident and so pitch perfect in his positioning that they would use their AD carry as like the hard engage and just like run people down and assassinate them. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. But they do this stuff a lot. I mean, like Lulu, Nunu, Kale, Jinx composition, things like that.
Yep. I mean, that's another reason why Name's just so great, is because his team can rely on him and trust him to like calculate exactly how much damage he can take from initiation and like where he can do it without getting instantly blown up. Whereas if you see this in a lot of other places, then it doesn't usually quite work as well.
The only time that I know it worked internationally, SK Telecom 21K did a Zilean, Lulu, Twitch, Invisipic, like NASCAR comp where Piglet blew people up. And you can see the difficulty in doing it. Yeah, he was like, oh, Piglet showed up here and now he's across the... How the hell did you... Jesus, that's a lot of speed ups. That was the line of thought. But you can see its failure in the recent NA promotions where you had Kian go mid Hecarim. The premise of that composition was to get Hecarim to go really, 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 really fast and get in your face and engage. Well, if you're not on point with following along with that, or if your lanes just flat out lose, it falls in on itself. And that's exactly what happened to Curse Academy. So just underscoring the difficulty of a composition like that, and I can completely see why LPL casting would be amazing, because stuff like that happens so often.
Movement speed is so prevalent in LPL just because they take down towers so quickly because the skirmishes start, and so a lot of the time you will see like Lulu, Kale, they will always be huge picks. Like Zillion is a big pick globally right now, but for LPL in particular, which is why it kind of also goes back to that second game where so in the second game Starhorn Royal Club took a game off of EDG, and it looked very much like EDG was saying, let's give them Maokai, let's give them what they want, and let's see if we can beat them. At least that's what it looked like from a pick spam perspective, because Starhorn Royal Club got every single thing that they wanted. And it kind of goes back to, yes, China's pick ban phase is weak, but if you don't take away certain aspects, like, they will beat you. Like, there are specific champions that inhibit what they do incredibly well. Zillion, Maokai are probably the top 2 that come to my mind, that if you don't take them away from it, it's just like, it's the danger zone. And I think that's a big reason why the Arrows beat... I always go back to this because I think it's like the perfect example why the Arrows beat Blue in the finals when it came down to blind pick. They both had Maokai, but the Arrows playstyle, which is very much like the Chinese playstyle, like, that champion is just so much stronger. You guys are giving me nothing.
I mean, no. I totally agree, and I mean it's like the antithesis to mobility, which is part of why it's so powerful. I mean, you can Like, it doesn't matter how fast you're moving if a tree just comes and sits on you.
If you just run
and,
into a
like,
tree,
knocks
you're
you
not
down.
going to go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
Okay, let's...
yeah, Maokai's pretty damn broken. So,
You're
I'd be
okay.
surprised. I
Sorry.
don't think anyone's going to get him at Worlds, especially the Chinese team. So, I don't know.
That is the one tip that
Well,
I can
I
give
mean,
to every
that's what
global
I
team.
always say, and then I end up seeing teams pick it. So I actually have no idea. Like, I'm not a coach for a team or anything, so I can never like fully justify why a team would just be like, yeah, just give them Maokai, it'll be fine. But you know,
I would call it a failure in a team's champion select priorities if
Don't we see
you
that
don't.
all the time? Like, don't you, like, turn on any professional match and you're just like... And the audience is sitting here. Like, I look at my Twitter feeds, everyone's like, ban Maokai, don't let him get the tree. And then suddenly you're just like 10 minutes later, how the fuck did Maokai get in that game?
Well,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
You said it yourself. OMG, a world championship qualified team, has a potential to just completely have a lobotomy during champion select. There are entirely too frequent lobotomies across the world when it comes to champion select priorities. It blows my mind. It's like people are playing. It's like one team is playing chess, the other is just playing checkers so often. It's ridiculous.
There is a great documentary called The Heart of the Game. It's on Netflix if you want to watch it. It's about basketball. I go and I watch all these sports documentaries for whatever reason. They really interest me, especially ones about coaching. But the coach makes this great statement. It's about a high school girls basketball coach. So that's like the level that we're at. He's dealing with teenagers, which a lot of our League of Legends players are, you know, young adults and teenagers. And he says, you're in the huddle and you're in the heat of the game and you're engaged with the players and you tell them do A, B, and C. And they're all looking, yeah, we'll do A, B, and C. We got it. And then break. Coach sends them out. He's like, but you're not on the court with them. You tell them to do A, B, and C. The teenagers all nod. They get on the court, they do X, Y, and Z. And they have no idea. You ask them later, like, why did you do X, Y, and Z? I don't know, coach. Like, and I wonder if that's kind of like some of the disconnect that we're having. Because of course, like as coach, as analyst, you can only, you know, we presume, lead your players so far.
Yeah, I can only affect them until they get into Jam Select.
There's a quote from Nick Saban, Alabama's football coach. Yes, I listen to a lot of what the man says for my other job. And he says, and I think it's very poignant here, he says, you don't practice to get it right. You practice so much to get it, not so you don't get it wrong. And in that's how you kind of balance that. You can plan, and planning's great, but sometimes it comes down to guys, butts in seats, executing the play call. And when you don't, the coach generally gets the crap for it, but really it's like, okay, I told you to ban this guy, you didn't do it, we lost because of it. But you don't see that interplay afterward. It's just, oh, Monte Cristo's an idiot because CLG didn't do their stuff. It's like, whoa, hold on, guys. You can't make that true assessment. But you keep going raging, and I'll laugh at you. That's how that whole controversy starts.
Oh, yes. Okay.
More or less.
Do we have regionals under control? Because we're starting to move a little bit off of regionals, and I think this is what we need to do is engage ourselves in the World Group stage and engage Thomas with our Korean expert here. Are you guys cool with that?
Yeah, I think we pretty much talked about regionals. IG shit the bed. UGG's God still.
Well, and we can talk about
OMG
OMG pitfalls when we get to
OMG is
group.
something.
Let's start with Group A. And this was the group that I think I nicknamed That Escalated Quickly. Because effectively, you know, coming out of the draw stage, you have, I think Dark Passage was the first announced group, and then it was AHQ. And everyone's like, oh my god, Group A is the group that we need to be in. And then suddenly you just get slammed by Samsung White and EDG. Which, I mean, I would love to see. I'm really excited to see any of the Southeast Asian teams compete because I'm very curious what they're going to do. I don't watch them a lot, so that excites me. But as far as, you know, good, engaging, exciting games, I think everyone is really only expecting 2 games from this group to be worth watching, and of course that's the 2 games of White and White and EDG. I mean, would you guys agree, disagree?
I think White is going to hand EDG their, I don't know, their dentures.
This is my problem. I actually feel like AHQ versus EDG would be a closer match than EDG versus Whites.
Why?
Just because of
Because
the play styles. Like, I don't see White not dominating that, especially like like it's easy to see EDG looking consistent from their playoffs, but like they're not consistent. I don't feel like. Did you see their I don't know if you guys watched the match or their set against King, but like it was kind of unconvincing. Like they almost lost that set.
Yeah, but can't you make
well,
arguments that they're not
they had
preparing
a
for
chance
it?
to lose that set.
To be fair, in XES, EDG got 2-0'd by IG at one point, so, like, they clearly do not give a shit about that tournament.
That's true.
I'm just saying.
That's true. For me, it's just like watching it. I'm just like, man, they have a really deep low compared to their high points. But I don't know. I just like. I guess if EDG give their absolute best game, they have a chance against White. But just like thinking of the matchups, like I don't know. Like I don't think.
You
I feel
think
like
that they
Nami
can
FCCF
take a
isn't
game
gonna
off of
match
White?
against Mata Imp either,
Like-
because Mata's just superior.
Well,
Um,
for me, looking at this group, I started laughing when I saw it because Samsung White, if you've watched the team over the years, it's the egos on that team are extreme, and that's not all bad. It's not all good. It's just a fact of life. They're going to style the hell out of Dark Passage and AHQ because they're not going to respect them. It's going to be
bite
you'll
your
see-
tongue, man.
No. Oh, I'm telling you, now they might lose because of it, but you're going to see some stuff where you're like, why your tactical and strategic thinking is just off here? Why are you doing this? And then they're going to have 40 kills in like 30 minutes. But in terms of games worth watching, I think the stylistic matchup between EDG Samsung White is going to be very interesting. I just have to point to continuing the EDG as a mini blue. Blue has consistently beaten White. So now,
Yeah, but
now is EDG as good as blue? I wouldn't go that far, but it's an interesting
Thomas, you're
stylistic matchup.
Thomas, you
Talk
were,
about how China sucks.
yeah,
It
you were
is,
supposed
but
to
then,
come in
like-
here and ground us. Jesus, just
Oh.
slap us with
like
the big
again,
Korean hand.
map
Okay.
control is my biggest thing. Like I don't think like FCZF doesn't have map control down like Heart does, and like in
Well,
this
it's
map,
Mata in White, but yes.
yeah, sorry, Mata,
The
and then
best
like
player.
and then you're considering like Clear Love against Dandy. Like I don't know about
Clear
that.
Love's going to get posterized by Dandy.
Like,
more than
that's what
likely,
I- that's-
particularly
that's-
if you give Dandy Rengar. That will be hilarious. That game will
That's-
be over by 20 minutes.
Will they
That's my
play
biggest
Rengar
problem,
still?
I think is the jungle matchup.
Dandy
Or are they going to move to
destroyed.
Kazakhs?
Well, maybe, but Dandy destroyed T1K on Rengar. Just single-handedly blew up one of the games where they got swept.
I
So
always love watching Insect play Rengar, and you can tell that he's been watching Dandy because he'll try to pull the same moves, and he just, I don't know if you've watched this, Thomas, that guy cannot play Rengar. Like, he plays it all
No.
the time, but he just cannot play Rengar. I find that
he
humorous.
he wants so badly for Rengar to have the damage reduction on the ultimate, so he can do on like Kha'Zix, so he can tank a team, but it doesn't quite work that way.
But yeah, I made the hard FCZF comparison because we're putting EDG in the theoretical shoes of blue, and I just
Oh, okay, that's fair. I gotcha.
and the support like jungle synergy there just doesn't have near this. Like even if the team's the same stylistically, the matchup in those departments is just so ridiculously different than
In
EDG
general, the map
which is my
control
concern.
between
Has it not been the consensus from us, at least?
Blue
And
and EDG.
Kelsey, Drexen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like the consensus from us, at least as a show, is that we never thought that there would be any upsets between China and Korea. But blue versus EDG, I think, is closer than white. Like, I feel like we as a group have said, you know, white's too methodical, they're too strong in their objective control and their early game, that we never thought that a Chinese team would really be able to do anything against them. Blue, though, because they kind of slack off, like the EDG blue matchup is really exciting, so it's kind of, it's surprising for me, which it makes sense, though, of what Thomas is saying, because blue does have that reputation of being able to take down white. But for me going in, I've always felt that white was the best team. They just had, you know, that weakness against blue.
Well, I'm not going to backtrack, but I'm going to clarify. I think White is the far and away favorite against EDG. White is extraordinarily good at grabbing control of the tempo of the game very early and punishing the smallest mistake. Again, let's go to probably the biggest, the White SK Telecom is what I'm going to keep referencing. SK Telecom is not a bad team, even though they got obliterated by Samsung White. White took advantage of small SK Telecom mistakes, you know, here and there, and suddenly where most games, oh damn, we screwed up a dragon fight, lost 2 and the dragon, we're 2,500 gold down, let's push another lane, we're 2,500 gold down, and now White is all over us, and we're trying to play reactionary. And once White gets you in that reactionary stage, you have to be a really, really good team to counterpunch hard enough to get them to back off. And that's where a lot of teams are going to have so much trouble, because White is going to grab tempo, and behind the coordination of Mata and the forward pressure of Dandy, you're just going to be like, well, what the hell do? We can't make a move. If we make a move, it gets countered. And if we're just waiting for them to make a move, they're going to just start eating us alive. That's what makes White so devastating.
Kelsey Jackson?
Totally agree. I don't think EG can keep up with the tempo early on, at least. And I don't believe that they're going to have the luxury of being able to stall like they do in their own region if things go sour for a while.
We mentioned.
I mean, to give EDG credit, like they do occasionally have very solid early aggression, but not at the tempo at which White plays. So I think it becomes irrelevant in that matchup.
And we mentioned EDG being similar to Blue. I think Blue would like dismantle EDG also, just because, like, it's really just the map pressure. We talk about we don't have map pressure from Clear Love. We don't have map pressure from FCZF. We don't have pressure from you. Like, those 3 early game map pressure roles don't really do much except stay lane and try not to lose, I guess.
So here's the word that I'm going to pick out. I'm going to kind of push back on you guys. Thomas used a word, and he used it with italics around his voice. He said reactionary. And, I mean, if there's anything that the Chinese region should be good at, it's playing a very reactionary playstyle, because if you think about the Chinese meta, it's very much about those team fights and these elongated fights happening, like, across map that just keep going for, like, 2 minutes about, you know, someone's here, react there. And, like, we would never say that they have the strategic aptitude of the Korean teams, but I mean, what do you guys think about that? If Thomas is saying that a team has to be good enough to react fast enough to White, don't you think that team would be in China?
Well, I'm just going to say,
They're like
and then
goldfish. I don't even know what to do with them.
I'll kick it to the LPL experts. I'm going to say that even so, the only team that's going to beat a Samsung team when they're not throwing for any sort of potential, like, bracket fixing, which I don't even want to. I don't want to talk about. I think I'm hands are up talking about that. But the only team that's going to beat a Samsung team in a best of 5 series is a Samsung team. Mm-hmm. They are a step ahead of everybody on almost every level. But anyway, to the panel, I apologize.
Goldfish.
Now can EDG take a game? Yes, I think it's possible, but it would require some like experimentation or slip up. Like major slip-ups from the Samsung teams, but yeah, I think a lot of it just comes down to, like, yeah, EDG can play reactionary, but White will have. Well, I assume that White will have so much control over the pace of the game that EDG will have a hard time keeping up, because as soon as they set up like early map control ahead of EDG is going to have trouble stalling off that, I think, because, like, again, their habits don't really work in the context of these super Samsung teams. So
let's broaden the question then, because I guess what Drexen is saying is that even though the Chinese teams are good at reactionary, they're too far ahead. So, blanket statement. Other than a Korean team, is there going to be any team, or what team do you guys think will be able to take games off of White or Blue? Be your go-to? Is it a Western team? Is it a Chinese team? Is it a Southeast Asian team? Taipei Assassins for Worlds, please.
Maybe. I don't even think Shield could, honestly. So
I said non-Korean.
I mean,
non-Samsung team is what I thought you said.
Oh, maybe I did.
This is so hard to answer, because I can see, unless they match each other, that Samsung.
I'm just asking for a game. The stars have aligned.
Okay. I mean, I do honestly think that, like, if the stars aligned, then yes, it would be one of the Chinese teams. But, like, I kind of want to give a cop-out answer and say that OMG in their, like, prime condition would be the top contender to take out a Samsung team, but they're not in their prime condition, so it's kind of irrelevant.
Here's your China bashing for the next couple of minutes. Perfect stars aligning. the only team looking at the matchups as we have them. I'm not talking about, further on in the brackets. I'm talking about one game matchup as we have them. The best team to potentially take a game off either Samsung organization is Fnatic over Blue in Group C. And the reason is that if there's one spot you can beat Blue, it is some of their laning tendencies. They're not amazing laners. They've never had to be, really. And what has Fnatic made hay on? The bedrock of Fnatic's dominance over the past couple of months has been Reckless and Yellowstar win lane, which frees up Yellowstar to roam, and suddenly he appears in some lane unexpectedly because he's really, really good at reading the map, turns a gank on its head, and then Fnatic has advantage. Now, the question is, is it big enough to where Samsung Blue can't battle back? That's the question that I can't really answer. I have absolute faith in Blue being able to do that, but if we're talking stars aligned, one team in this tournament to take a game off a Samsung team, I think it's Fnatic because they can abuse some of the laning of Blue. I think White's just devastating, too much so for non-Korean teams.
What do you think Fnatic's laning versus someone like Starhorn Royal Club's lanes?
Fnatic versus Starhorn?
Well, no, just Fnatic. If it's Fnatic versus Blue and peak performance, or Starhorn Royal Club versus, like, if your win conditions for Fnatic are their lane dominance and their ability to free up Yellowstar, why is that not the same for another lane dominant team like Starhorn Royal Club for Zero?
Well, okay, I said in the tournament. If we're just doing general stuff, any team, if we're doing like team on team, pie in the sky, Starhorn can get there too. It's just, you have to think about, how do you beat Blue? You have to punch them hard enough to where when they get up.
That group.
Right.
Okay.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You just, in order to beat Blue, and this is just a blanket statement, in order to beat Blue, you have to punch them hard enough and get a big enough advantage that when they counterpunch, because they are going to counterpunch, it's not an overwhelming problem.
In the balls.
Yeah, exactly. So a lane aggressive team like Starhorn, or a lane aggressive team, specifically Fnatic in the bottom lane, they have a shot against Blue. But if you try and play Blue's game like Alliance stands zip, zilch, nada, zero chance against a Samsung Blue. Because Alliance would try and play their game, which is similar to Blue. Blue would take one look at it, they would laugh, and then suddenly you'd have Alliance detritus on the Rift as Blue destroys their Nexus.
I got really dark real quick. Kelsey Drexler, I mean, if you had to give... I was asking for any team that would be able to unseat Samsung. I feel like the only time we'll see a Samsung team fall is if, they may look at the bracket and decide that they really want that second seed to avoid certain things.
Rude.
Thomas gives a look.
It's
a lot of money to one organization.
I mean, I just really want OMG to be at their prime, and then maybe there's hope. But I don't know, man.
# free cloud.
Like, the only other one is EDG, and that seems really generic. 'Cause it's just, the best team in the second best region. But I mean, like, at this point, like, all logic aside, just skill matchup. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. I don't see anyone else.
# freeze cloud.
Monte Cristo made
Yes.
a very interesting. I don't know if you guys watched his reflections, but he was asked. He thought if you could give a perfect coach to a team, what would be the best team in the world? And he actually picked OMG because he called it their skill cap, their ceiling. That's what I'm looking for.
Ceiling.
Yeah, their skill ceiling is so high, but they're just so dumb. I mean, would you guys agree that in perfect form, OMG, they I don't know if Dota 7 becomes the new Cloud, or they free Cloud, or I don't know, Sika comes running up from the crowd, Pomelo jumps up on stage.
Subs in and just
Yellowstar only plays Leona for them.
They'll probably be able to, because of the way the world's rules work, they'll probably take Shiyoung, Dota 7,
their
Cloud,
choir boy
and
of
Pomelo.
supports.
And Pomelo with them, because they've all played enough games with OMG over the year to qualify for World Championship to come with them, according to the LPL rules. So, just imagine the scenario. OMG is 5,000 gold down, doesn't look good. Cloud rushes on stage, upends Dota 7's chair, shoves him, and just, grabs that thresh and carries the team. Yeah, that's the fake scenario in which OMG may or may not be able to win against Blue. But by the time they're 5,000 gold down, they're not going to win anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I would just like to see that for the caster and referee reactions as like tables start getting thrown on on the stage, but that's just me.
Cloud like rips him from the
Hashtag
seat, throws him off.
freak out.
No, okay, so consensus for Group A. I feel like Group A is hard to talk about just because there's not a lot of like variables that could really go wrong there. I feel like it's for sure white EDG making it out. I mean, do you guys have any disagreement, or you want to talk about any dark horse? I know you brought up the Southeast Asian team, Jackson.
No,
Thomas?
because I mean, I used to actually be a fan of watching HQ when I was in GPL, but the set that TPA won against them was so convincing, such a convincing 3-0, and I obviously value EDG higher than TPA, so just kind of like by that transitive property rule, I just don't think HQ is the general skill to pull out any upsets, and Dark Passage is like losing to like ranked 5s solo queued, or ranked 5s queued up teams or something. So no, it definitely has to be Samsung and EDG for that group.
Consensus?
I'm with that. The other teams are too far behind. They're just too far behind stylistically for me to legitimately believe that AHQ or Dark Passage is going to legitimately challenge either of the other two.
Okay, Group B, Reginald's picks. Doesn't have a Korean team in it. However, he is facing, it's TSM, Starhorn Royal Club, SK, and TPA, yes?
Yes.
Don't have the thing pulled up in front of me. I feel like this is a very interesting group. I have never been more of a TPA fan in my life than I will be for that group stage. But I feel like general thought is that it's going to be Starhorn Royal Club, TSM making it out. But what are your guys' breakdowns of that group? Because I feel like that group could go a lot of ways. I mean, you're still competing against SK, which looked phenomenal in the playoffs and the regionals for their region. I thought SK had great games. Kicking it to you guys. Let's go.
Well,
Woo!
my question. Go ahead, Mike.
I was just thinking that Group B might actually be the closest group out of all.
I know
of them, so
everyone
it might
talks
be the
about
hardest to
Group
determine.
C, but Group B is like really.
I also think people are going to be disappointed by Group C. Like, I don't think it's going to be like dead even like everyone thinks it'll be. But just speaking specifically of Group B, because I know for a fact that the TPA that shows up now will be like hundreds of times stronger than when we last saw them, and yeah, they didn't even look that bad at All Stars in Katowice. Like, they looked bad, like behind NA and EU, but it wasn't that bad. And now they have like the Najin coaching and the new practice infrastructure. Obviously, they're kind of taped down by the region's competition, which is really a shame. But I mean, if they've had any opportunities to scrim stronger regions, then there you go. But
for this group, I think before the start of this past week, before the Starhorn drama that we're going to that you guys will talk about later, because I don't have as much insight, but before the week started, I think you had Starhorn as the clear number one, just because of their ability to play tempo and force teams to play at their speed, which is devastating to me.
Sidetrack from you, Thomas, and I want to get your
Sure,
input
go
here,
ahead.
because I feel like we've talked this to death. And agree with me or disagree with me, just make your opinion clear.
Sure.
Starhorn brute forces wins because of their mechanical ability, because they are stronger and mechanical players than 99% of the competition that they face. Even in their own goddamn region, I feel like that's how Starhorn won their games. I will make this statement. I will get a lot of hate for this. I don't feel that the West is mechanically better than Eastern teams. I think there are very few players from the West that you can take and you can put on the Eastern team stage. Let's take Froggen. Let's take the best. I think Froggen is an exception, but like anyone else, I feel like Korn is going to. I feel like Korn could show down Bjergsen. In all honesty.
I think there's something to that, but I also think that at some point the pure brute force method is going to get beaten by a more nuanced strategic approach. Now, looking at the three teams that Starhorn is competing against, I don't see strategic nuance from any of those teams, really. I mean, or if I do, I think the mechanics that you mentioned, there's such a huge difference that it doesn't matter. So I think a brute force thing is very fair, but once you can hone that mechanical skill into, okay, we know this, we need to do this, and it's the correct call, then you get a really scary proposition, because there are teams that will enter, even in this tournament, they're like, we're just mechanically better, therefore we will win. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. If you push 4 on the top and we grab a dragon and a turret while you're, farting around with a guy that's wave clearing, we probably came out ahead. So I think there is a point at which you're correct, but that's also, once that gets exposed, it's bad news.
I mean, Drex and Kelsey, there was that statement that was on Reddit front page for a long time where I think it was Shy. Shy made the statement, or he was quoted saying that NAEU are not behind in mechanics to Korean teams. And again, I'll just be like frankly honest, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think that's bullshit. I think that Western teams are behind in their mechanics. I think the skill cap and the skill ceiling.
Are you saying everything the Koreans say to the Western fans aren't true?
Oh, come on. We know that.
Are you doubting Hotshot's LeBlanc?
What did Faker say? He said Link was the best mid that he faced. He said that Hotshot was the better LeBlanc. Why would we think that Shy wouldn't just be being polite?
Why would a superior
but no, I want your
guys'
guys' opinion. Like, I have this strong opinion that I think that Western teams, Western players individually, are not as skilled as their Eastern counterparts. And people are like, oh, that's wrong. I mean, because if you think about this is a game of 4 buttons. So what is going on here? Tell me that I'm full of shit. Come on.
Honestly, I do think it's bullshit that the skill difference isn't there, because it is. But I do think that it's not as, vastly significant as the team play difference. That's obvious. The team play is obviously a much
Well, then is China a
better
strategic team? Like, if your is your statement then, because if you're gonna make it that it's the mechanics are 1 point, but it's mostly the team, which I think everyone's going to agree with, because this is competitive teams. But then, do you submit to the idea that the Chinese teams are better than the Western teams, and if so, why is that? Or do you think that the Western teams are better than China?
Well, no. I think you have to look at what China does. I'm gonna use the classic Chinese aggression thing, and I'm gonna get smashed by all 3 of you for it. But a lot of what China does, they base their games off of winning a team fight and grabbing something. That's not a bad style per se. It's just how that I've seen, and I admit I haven't seen as much as nearly the 3 of y'all, but when you can team fight to such a high level, that's a really powerful base to fall down on. If you're a European team or you're a North American team, oh, let's go contest Dragon. Well, if you get stuck in a team fight with China, and assuming China builds a team fight comp, it's a dicey proposition, because that's what China has built their game off of. Now, I'm not saying it's the best way to play. I'm just saying it's how I've seen them play. And in that instance, yes, China's better because their baseline, as opposed to rotating around the map and taking objectives. If China can call you to heal, get you to fight, yes, China will outfight you, because that's how they've built their game over the past at least season. That's how I view it, at least.
And also, the Chinese versus Western matchup, I do think, with how much international experience has happened, I can't guarantee anything, because I'm not going to say that Western teams can't defeat Chinese teams, because I think that's factually wrong. But what I will say that with the experience that China has garnered overall, I do think that they have an advantage against Western teams, just because the way they facilitate their team fights, I feel like they're going to be a lot better at forcing the Western teams into positions where they have to fight. Whereas in the past, and this is obviously a product of the meta as well, but in the past it was a lot easier to kind of avoid team fights in favor of other things. Right now, I think it's a meta where you can definitely force people to enter situations that they're uncomfortable in if you have control of the pace and the tempo of the game. So I don't know if agree, disagree.
No, I think that's smart. So I mean, going back to it, we will have Korn versus Bjergsen in this matchup, Starhorn Royal Club versus TSM. Who wins that?
I'm going to be, if you're talking individual lane matchup, I'm out of my depth. I'll say the biggest problem for TSM going into this matchup, from what I see, is the impact of INSEC. And it's not because Insec is this, he's
The god of the jungle.
yeah, I do not subscribe to that at all. But what I'm saying is that
Good call.
Insec is very good at kind of randomly showing up where you don't expect him and causing pressure in some weird way. And when you get a team like TSM uncomfortable, how do they respond? Yes, they responded very well when Cloud9 got them uncomfortable in the North American regionals. But can you say historically over the past season that if they've been put in an uncomfortable position, they've responded with the gusto needed to carry a game? I wouldn't say that. So I think if it's just pure mechanics, Bjergsen Korn, I think it's it might be slightly to Korn, but I think it's more closer to push than flagrant advantage. I think the big deal there is Insec causing chaos around the middle lane, and we don't even want to talk about the impact of Uzi and Zero probably beating the snot out of Wild Turtle and Lust Boy.
But see, that's the
Maybe.
That's
But Wild
the thing
Turtle
that I
has
wanted to
had
bring
a
up.
really good Worlds last year, so maybe he'll show up really well. I don't
Is
know.
this true?
Well, that's because Corky got buffed, like, ridiculously,
That's true.
to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, think about like Bjergsen. Like speaking of showing up, like Bjergsen in the playoffs for TSM, like TSM as a whole showed up, but that was the Bjergsen that we were promised. Like it kind of felt that he showed up, and correct me again if I'm wrong.
Absurd.
He
in the
was
regionals.
insanely good. So, okay, so we're making the statement that Bjergsen showing up for the TSM finals was like, that was the guy that, he was the EU dream, he was the best mid laner, when TSM brought him over, that was the hype. And then here we have, Thomas saying that because when you think about mid laners in China, you're thinking, cool. We're like, oh yeah, Korn, he could beat Bjergsen. What does that say? Like, this is the topic, because I feel like a lot of Western audience members will be like really surprised that this guy, this mid laner that no one has heard of, because when you think of Starhorn, everyone talks about Uzi, everyone talks about Insect, no one talks about Korn's Orianna.
Well, I think to this Bjergsen thing, yes, he showed up for regionals, but that's the... Can you say he's consistently shown up? I mean, congratulations.
Not a regular split. No.
Exactly. So, I can go out on the football field and have one 600-yard game, Matt Flynn, and get a $48 million contract and do absolutely nothing with it because I had one great game. I showed up one time or one set of games, but I'm not consistent. I mean, that's how I see it. Can Bjergsen at his best take a Korean or a Chinese mid laner? Absolutely he can. But I haven't seen the body of evidence that makes me think, he's going to be able to do it on a consistent basis. That's my whole criticism, if you will, of Bjergsen.
He says consistency. You guys having Korn's history, what do you think? Speaking of consistency, Korn didn't show up for, the entire freaking split.
Well, he had like a clear moment when it kind of clicked, and I don't think he's really had like a bad game since then. To be honest, like on his champions, to clarify, like I don't think he's had a bad game on his champions. He's had bad Rise games, but his champions are Orianna, Fizz, Yasuo. On those champions, I think he can beat Bjergsen. Otherwise, I don't think he'll try to do anything effectively, and he'll just like not pressure any advantages or do that well. So it just depends on whether or not he gets his champions, and that's it.
I mean, like how OMG won't make it
totally
to Worlds?
Please
No.
don't do the dance again.
I mean, I'm not gonna do the dance. Don't worry. That's it. That wasn't even the bet. That was IG. OMG though is weird, but we can talk about that next.
Jackson, you were saying?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's going to come down to if Korn gets his best champions. I feel like Korn on his best champions is probably a little better, but I do think Bjergsen has the wider pool that he can play on a very high level at. So I could be proven wrong because Korn has gotten a lot better throughout the split. So
I think another interesting facet of this matchup is that Bjergsen and Korn play very similar champions. I would say Bjergsen has the larger champion pool, but he plays Fizz. He plays Orianna. Like, the fact that he can be just as successful on Korn's best champion, I think, like you guys said, it's very easy to pick away and to punish Chinese teams like this. So, break down this matchup for me, guys. TSM, Starhorn Royal Club, who wins, why do they win, where do they win? I mean, you talked a little bit about, Thomas said, Uzi and Zero kicking the shit out of Wild Boys. I mean, is that where it is? Is it at Insect making those, really obvious gank patterns where he gank spot religiously in the first 5 minutes?
Well, I think the thing is, okay, so over the course of the regular split, Starhorn Royal Club was godly at taking the first dragon, statistically. And with Uzi and Zero versus Wild Turtle and Lustboy, I think it'll be enough of an edge towards that duo that they can push him out of lane and grab early dragons and then snowball off that. That is the win condition I see in that matchup. If it weren't for that, I think it would be a closer matchup. But I mean, we'll see. Maybe TSM will come out on top in that matchup. But the way I see it is that they're going to have issues during early dragons, and then Starhorn will just snowball off that.
What about the top lane? I mean, Dyrus showed up really big in regionals, and Cola is probably, if we were going to single out a weakness for Starhorn Royal Club, their top laner is kind of a wallflower. He's not really known well for doing anything, particularly amazing. He plays Jax. I mean, how do you think that matchup's going to go? Is something going to happen in the top lane? Because Dyrus, again, statistically, he showed up really big. I mean, is he going to be the swing condition on that side of the map for TSM? Amazing. We haven't even talked about him.
See, I don't even know if I'd say that, just because, okay, so if Dyrus wants to help participate in the early dragon and objective fights, and Kola likes to play split pushing champs, I honestly think that works in Starhorn's favor again. Assuming TSM, doesn't ban Jax, which I don't think they would. There's too many other threats. I don't know what Kelsey thinks about this, but that's what I feel. I feel like there's just a soft counter in playstyles, maybe.
Give me a scenario where TSM wins, and give me a scenario where Starhorn World Cup wins. Give me the win conditions for either way that can go. So TSM what would need to happen for TSM to win? I feel like Orianna would have to be taken away. Probably not banned. I would like to see Bjergsen on that champion because he's really solid on it. Dyrus has found a lot of success on Mundo.
I think very good jungle warding is a good start so that Insect can't go ahead and try to murder Amazing. Because if they can put Insect really far behind, that might alleviate a lot of pressure, since Insect, used to have a pretty bad habit of just dying at random. I was going to say maybe a lane swap would be involved, but I don't think that would actually help TSM very much.
I think it would.
I think it would a little bit, because that's what I was thinking is, TSM might have to lane swap to win, but...
Lane swaps.
That's exactly why I was not really sure. Because statistically speaking, they haven't done well when they lane swapped in the NALCS, so...
I feel like both of these teams are really bad at lane swaps in context of their region, so it will be interesting to see if they try to do that.
I think TSM could make some hay off of early game dominant champions trying to get that outer ring down and trying to short circuit the laning phase and then start trying to rotate away as much as they can. In the end, they're going to have to fight Starhorn Royal Club, but you want to try and force some kind of advantage. And the brute force, going back to the Starhorn brute force thing, can you kind of slide away from some of their brute force swings to fit a little jab then and there before you hit them with that one knockout that you need to win the game? I think that would be an interesting thing to consider for TSM.
I agree with Thomas here. I think Starhorn's weakness is that they play that early aggression game so much. And if we think about their playstyle, it's very Mac Noon-esque, everyone's going to dive everything all the time. And I don't think they adapt well, because they're all about grabbing that early snow. If we identify, Starhorn Royal Club grabs early dragons, like Drexen said, they push down early towers, and they take that gold lead, and then they just force fights for other objectives. But I don't feel like Starhorn would be able to identify, Insect can dive this tower, or we can make this skirmish because we have this gold advantage, versus if TSM decided to, like you said, play early lane early game win the lane phase as far as, like objectives and building up their own gold rush. I don't think Starhorn would be able to switch it off and say, we're not 3k gold ahead. We can't play as aggressive or as risky as we are like we normally do. I mean, would you guys... And is that the only win condition for TSM? I mean, is that do they have to play, like early presence, get the gold lead, and then just like stay the fuck away from Starhorn until, they have a 3k, 5k, and then can have some sort of superficial buff to their team fighting presence to make up for lack of coordination?
I think so. I think a lot of it comes down to TSM has to fix a lot more of their flaws to find victory than Starhorn has to fix theirs, but any complacency in Starhorn's side could mean a victory for TSM. I mean, there's certainly not like a huge mismatch. It's just in like 4 out of 5 circumstances I see Starhorn winning. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Starhorn can just brute force easily any team in this group. So they're just really, like when we talk about mechanical advantages and we talk about finding the right ganks, like putting the pressure on early.
Are we identifying only the Korean teams as the teams that can just outmaneuver Starhorn and make up for that mechanical gap? I mean, is that what you guys are saying?
It's funny because I'm essentially picking the Chinese team with the Koreans on it to be the most Chinese team, stereotypical Chinese team. Typical Chinese aggression. But I really feel like Insec has fit into that mold. Even in Korea, he just was kind of wanting to be in China, even though apparently he doesn't really want to be in China. But
well, let's talk about.
It's interesting.
We can, make a segue into the Starhorn drama, but I mean, let's talk about SK, because we talked about like TSM, but I feel like SK is kind of like the underdogs. Like no one's really looking at them, and I feel like if we're talking about a team that can out-rotate someone that's smarter than teams that make up for their maybe lack of mechanical aptitude for strategic play, I think SK kind of fits that bill, no? I mean, they put up a really good fight against Alliance.
I think SK is very underrated in this group. I did a pick thing for Esportspedia, and I have Starhorn and TPA getting out with SK taking 3rd and TSM falling all the way to 4th. And I can justify
there we go.
I can justify that to the end of time. But I'm just going to say that SK Gaming has a very solid tactical base in rated. This has been said probably ad infinitum, but I'm going to say it one more time. He has an excellent tactical mind, arguably the best in Europe. So if he can coordinate his team, SK can win. I want to see how SK play this incarnation drama. If it like takes them to a new level and they come in angry, I think they're one of those teams where you could see them kind of go, terrible metaphor, but go Super Saiyan on somebody and really surprise.
This is their coach not being allowed backstage, yes?
Yes,
okay.
the incarnation drama that it's let's just say it was a stretch from a logical standpoint, but it happened, and I want to see how that team reacts to that. Are they going to come in flat because, oh my God, our process is completely hosed because our coach isn't there? Or are they going to come in saying, we have fixed our process, we are angry because our coach got unfairly hosed, and God damn it, we're going to take it out on TPA? Is that what they're going to do?
That's actually something I wanted to bring up for SK, is that I think that they'd potentially be able to take second in the group, but I do think that Incarnation not being able to assist them like on stage or like officially kind of knocks them down a notch or two, just because SK like as a organization has always been a team that's been very reliant on their infrastructure. I mean, even if you go back to their interviews when they take games off of teams in the ULCS in the regular season, they've always been like, yeah, our psychological coach, this and that helped so much. Is like they helped us here and helped get this straight here. And they obviously couldn't mention Incarnation, but obviously they have a lot of respect for him as well. So I feel like relative to a lot of other teams, that's going to hurt SK a lot. And that's my one worry for the team, that I otherwise feel would probably have a very safe second place finish in that group.
Kelsey? Sounds like you guys aren't even putting TSM to make it out of this group. Is this...
I will always pick the teams that I feel like can brute force. And that's why I have TSM as second. I just feel like this.
Oh no, I think TSM would be second in this situation too.
Yeah.
But
My reasoning for not having TSM getting is after they now have expectations. If TSM had gone in and again lost to Cloud9, I'm putting the thought process in my voice. If they had lost to Cloud9 again, they'll go to Worlds, maybe they'll make some noise, and then they'll exit group. But now, oh my God, TSM, they're back. They're on top of the world. They're on top of the NA throne. They're going to come in and they're going to do all this stuff, and suddenly the fan expectations are just through the goddamn roof. I mean,
oh yeah,
how many times? Like, any of y'all can say this. How many times have y'all taken crap on Twitter or read tweets where, y'all are underrating NA and EU teams? Well, the downside to that is that the expectations are through the roof. And what happens if TSM, their first game is against SK? That they lead off the group in Group B. What happens if they lose that game? You can see just a downhill slide. The expectations are so high, and that. I don't know how they're going to respond to that. That's my problem with TSM. Yes, they're veterans. Yes, they've been there before. But when the chips are down and the expectations are through the roof, what happens? This team has not shown me that they're that extraordinarily mentally tough. I'm sorry, I just haven't seen it. So that's why I'm kind of off the TSM bandwagon, because that's a ton of pressure to play a game under.
What about TSM versus LMQ? Let's go back to this game, because I was actually really impressed with TSM, which we're talking about LMQ, so I really shouldn't be that impressed. That's a burn, but I love you, LMQ. No, TSM versus LMQ. I was really impressed with TSM's ability to adapt and to change their play style, because LMQ, the brilliant thing about Chinese teams is that they force you to play their game. It's like the Arrows, they forced Blue to play that game. They force you to fight them, and they force you to fight them all the time. And TSM picked their comp, and they team fought probably better than they have all freaking split. It was great. So, TSM really proved to me that, hey, we can show up and play your play style and beat you at it, because they won. That said, it took them all 5 games to take down the 3rd seat North American team, what was the 6th place. And we keep saying this to people like, LMQ, lol, esports looking at you. LMQ has the hybrid of the NA and the Chinese standard right now. They've gotten better. And I love the argument of, but the NA teams have gotten so much better. Like, the Chinese teams have just been, like, sitting with their thumbs up their asses or something. Like, the wording alone in China is night and day different than what it was. I mean, what do you guys think? Does TSM from that perspective have more? I mean, when you talk about, like, showing up when it's big, like, I did not expect TSM to show up in those games.
This is the problem a lot of fans have, as a perception issue, is that they just, like, see this improvement in their own box, but then think everything around that doesn't actually change or alter at all. It's like when people think that the gap is bridging between, like, Western teams and, like, Korean regions. It's like, it doesn't work like that, because this whole time Korea is getting better too. It's like they're going up like this. It's not just like Korea's just sitting there, like, on fucking vacation, like, and then it doesn't work like that. They're not just like chilling out. They're practicing harder and harder and finding more and more efficient ways of owning this practice. So yeah, NA has improved. Like, NA has improved so much. Like, that cannot be denied. But they aren't the only ones that improved. It just doesn't work like that. Like, the rest of the world has improved with them.
If you had to give a most improved star to a region, who would you give it to? Because I think Drexen, I mean, this panel is probably one of the few people that watch a lot of the regions. I mean, would you give it to NA? Would you give it to Korea? Because you can give it to Korea. You can say, like, yeah, you guys are night and day where you used to be.
You're even better when you were already the best. Congratulations.
I would give it to Korea. Anyway, I would give it to Korea.
Why would you give it to Korea?
The gap has increased.
So it was like here, and now we're like way up here.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing with Korea is just that you had SKT being unbeatable for like an entire year, and now they're like 5th or 6th. Like, that's just insane to me.
But was that due to the Korean teams getting better, or SK just kind of taking a nosedive?
I'm not even talking about SK Telecom T1K, right? We had SK Telecom T1K like at Worlds last year, and they were the best team at Worlds for sure, right? They were definitely the best team at Worlds. They were probably the best. They were definitely the best team in Korea at the time, also. Now we have these Samsung teams that are the best teams in Korea, the best teams in the world. we had Chinese teams that could, in theory, take like a Chinese team, OMG, that could take a game off SK Telecom T1K last year. This year, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think we're going to get Chinese teams capable of taking any games off of Samsung teams. I don't think we'll see Western teams taking games off Samsung teams. That's my feeling.
That moment
I
when
mean-
LMQ unseats Samsung Blue.
If we're gonna avoid like just saying, Korea's obviously improving because of the best infrastructure, then I guess I would give it to NA. And I only say that because I feel like their bottom of the barrel teams have gotten so much better than they used to be. There's no longer just these
You
like
mean
two
Team 8?
wasted. Well, there's no longer just these like two wasted slots at the bottom. Like it feels like these teams actually can threaten the top teams in the region now. It's not just like they're just gonna go 3-23 every split or whatever.
You're talking about complexity, blue shelling a lot of top
Complexity,
NA teams,
yeah.
and then getting kicked
And I mean,
from the
but
LCS.
even think of
You're gonna give them the gold star for that?
even think of like evil geniuses. Like okay, they didn't really have results shown outside of like Super Week where they 4-0'd, right? But like if you think about EG being like a bottom team now, quote unquote, compared to like Velocity, like I think that's kind of big.
No,
I
I agree with you, but we also
I
have to
don't
take
know.
into the matter that EG paid for Helios, who I guess is he
Yeah.
now the shot caller?
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Okay, so they pay for a shot caller as well as a new jungler, and I think Alltech and Pobelter are really skilled.
I looked at EG as a team that, and this is kind of getting off base, but I looked at them as a team that didn't really have a chance to develop chemistry until towards the end of the season. And once that chemistry kind of fell into place, the team got a lot better. I think every region has stepped up, and I'm not really I'm not in a gold star giving mood right now. So, I mean, I'm just saying the game itself has evolved. It's evolved in different ways. It's evolved like you're seeing it even. I have a conversation, a guy that I know he's watching right now, Pinata, I'm shouting you out. He and I get into conversations very often where
Very
you look
smart
in.
guy.
Well, there you go. You look at Korea, and Korea is really, 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 really good at taking one mistake and beating the crap out of you with it. You want to. I'll give you a great example. Samsung White, SK Telecom T1K. Impact's KO misses one teleport in the bottom lane. Imp gets a triple kill. Samsung White snowballs off the game. Game over 10 minutes later. 10, 15 minutes later. But you look at other regions, and that's starting to happen. You're starting to see teams get, not like flagrant mistakes, like Dragon plus Ace plus 3 turrets in 10 minutes, but like they'll take a Dragon fight, and it'll be a 4-for-2 and a Dragon. And instead of, oh, we just won something, let's go back to lanes and farm for 20 minutes. They take something, and what was a 2,000 gold lead off of that one interplay between teams turns into a 5,000 gold lead because they immediately follow it up with a turret, or they follow it up with something. It's the way that North American and European teams are starting to layer themselves very, very well. China does it too. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying that's what you're starting to see globally, where mistakes are much more punished, particularly by the best teams.
And I do think Starhorn Royal Club is a good example of a team that can snowball, if we're talking about snowballing teams. So it's another reason why I rank them highly in this group, is that if they do get an advantage, and we're all saying that they do, is that they like to just pressure it really hard. And this can lead to them overextending and making their own mistakes and getting punished, but that's what they do. So
We talked about Starhorn, we talked about TSM, we talked about SK. TPA, just real quick. What are our expectations here?
Wins is gonna screw some bitches up. The jungle carry.
I actually really, really want TPA to do well, but it's just so hard, like, to gauge TPA. Like, it's really hard. I mean, they 3-0'd AHQ, and then that was, like, the only noteworthy thing you could think about. But, like, it just sucks. Like, I don't even, like, know how they stay so good relative to their region while having such shitty practice. Like, that's kind of weird to me, so I guess, like, kudos to them. But I think it is possible for them to upset and get second in the group. Like, I don't know.
Gun to your head,
Like,
Jackson.
well,
Top two teams.
I want it
that
to
make it out of the
happen.
group.
I want it to happen so badly, but
Who's gonna go?
I
Come
don't
on.
know. I don't think it will actually.
Are you Starhorn World Club TSM? Are you
I
SK?
still want to say Starhorn and TSM, but Oh, it's rough. Like I said, this is the hardest group for me to predict, I believe. Harder than C, by a long shot.
The reason I have TPA second is I do believe that Wins is, oh, well, okay, I'll say it, the best non-Korean jungler there at the tournament. I think he will cause undue amounts of annoyance, particularly, and this is why I have TPA over TSM. I have no belief in Amazing. I'm sorry. Take away Lee Sin, take away Elise, and suddenly you're like, oh, well, I have this guy on the Rift. He does spells randomly that don't really help.
Is that clear love?
Damn. Well, there's that too. But I'm just saying, like, in that specific matchup, now, now is Aki a very good top laner for TPA? I wouldn't go that far. But I do believe that Wins is a very, very solid jungler and will cause enough chaos that TPA will be able to find some wins and get out of the group.
Who do you think? I'm going to talk to Thomas. He says TPA is making it out.
Oh, God.
Where you put CSM all the way down in fourth, yeah? You think it's going to be Starhorn World Cup, TPA, SK, TSM?
Yes.
Why? What is breaking down there? Is this completely off of jungle wins? Are you basing this simply because of Amazing's performance? And I never get SK's jungler's name right, so I never like to say it.
Svenskeren.
I always want to call him Spin.
The reason I put TSM fourth because I don't think you can undervalue expectations. Yes, TSM has developed infrastructure. I've sung Locodoco's praises in a couple of articles. The stuff that he's done, like if you don't win, you're not allowed on social media, and then using fans to police it, that's brilliant and it hasn't gotten any play because he did it a couple of months ago. But I think the expectations are such a weight on any player, and you see that in normal sports too. Oh, you've won a championship already. Well, now we expect you to win another one. The circumstances might be different, but we expect another championship. And that's just kind of, that's the fan expectation. Then I look at TSM. I have big problems with how Wild Turtle plays the game. I do. I'm sorry. His aggression is great. It's awesome. And then he gets his dick chopped off because he overextends and TSM loses. That can happen. But I think TPA, it's one of those. I think they've got the underdog thing, and I think they've been coming together. And like Drexen said, yes, they've been crushing the hell out of GPL. And what does that mean? But also, some of the things you're hearing is they're doing very well in international scrims now. Now, I don't rate practice very heavily, but that means that they can at least compete. And when you can compete, you can certainly win.
Calm down, Leviathan. Kelsey, Drexen. No, Kelsey, you're the one. Who
Yeah.
Two teams. He says TPA, Starhorn Royal Club. He
I
says...
say Starhorn Royal Club TSM.
You know, I'm with Thomas. TPA. Let's go.
Yeah.
And fuck
Hey,
Starhorn. Let's go SK
what I want
too.
to happen is
TPA,
different from
SK.
what I think will happen. Sorry.
I do think that Wins is going to be very surprising. I just remember when I saw him, like the first time, like let's be real, on like the Gamma Bears, he didn't really stand out. The first time he really like stood out was when they switched him onto Taipei Snipers. O'Real was the old jungler. They moved O'Real to mid lane. Suddenly, O'Real looked like the best mid laner in Taiwan. Like that guy would go like 10-0. He didn't really play mid lane that much. He played it in solo queue, I think, but that's the kind of jungler we're talking about. The one who can like take someone
In the
and
worst
make them the best.
region in League of Legends, the jungler that can rise above.
I mean, it's that for sure, but just the fact that even relative to the skill level of the other Taiwanese teams, and then that was the week where that was the split where TPA and TPS went 5 games, so that's significant. And then they put wins on TPA, so that team should. And that's a much better team in other positions.
The thing about the TPA team, yes, Wins played at All-Star, but he'd also only been on the team for like 3 weeks at max when they went to the All-Star tournament. So I kind of throw that result out. I think the team has had time, they've gotten some chemistry going, and they are a dark horse in Group B.
Season 2 of the dream.
Dude, if CPA won Worlds, like, you don't know how happy I'd be.
Can we
My
talk about
head would
That'd be a
explode.
great story.
the editor
Would.
in if you guys haven't watched The Road to Worlds Chapter 2, the editor that put the Cloud9, because it's not Cloud9's fault. You have High talking about, we don't want to let our fans down, we're the hope of NA, and then immediately you transition into like Piglet and Going crying about how their families don't love them and how they can't. Like, whoever edited that together and made that juxtaposition needs to be fired, because that makes Cloud9 look pretty scummy next
Privileged.
to it's awful. Yeah, that was bad. Right.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen it, but if they did that, that's...
It's
Come on,
Thomas.
guys.
It's
Yeah,
not
you have to watch
Cloud9's
it.
fault. Like, they're just talking about we're the
No.
hope of NA, we're the underdogs going in, and you're like, yeah, Cloud9, and then it immediately cuts to like Going and Piglet's story, and Going's like literally crying. He's like, we're not rich, we're not poor, and then it shows like a shed, and there's no walls, and there's like a light
Oh,
bulb.
God, no.
Oh,
Dude, I
jeez.
hated that so much. Oh, man, it's so
And you're like,
sad.
the cultural difference is just so shocking. Okay. Maybe not the best. Let's go Group C. Oh no, we're supposed to talk about Starhorn Royal Club drama. So someone break this down for me very quickly. Kelsey,
Someone
Drexen.
preferably not me, because I was kind of dying during the whole thing, so...
Kelsey, do you want to do? Because
Okay,
it was
so-
on Gamers who actually ran the article. This is your
Let's-
job. Come on.
Let's back it all the way up. Uzi releases this post
On his Weibo.
about on his Weibo, yes, about how he's not going to season 4. Everyone, please support his team. Well, actually, I didn't back up far enough. Eno resigns as the
Manager.
for Starhorn Royal Club. Eno and UZI have a very close relationship. It's like father-son kind of relationship, mentor relationship. So after Eno leaves, Uzi is obviously going to be upset about him no longer being there. Then he posts on his Weibo, I'm sorry, I can't go to S4. This was right after they had a game in XES versus King, where they got 2-0'd by Team King, which is a new team in LPL next year. They just got in by winning LSPL. Sorry about that. But immediately people sort of gravitate towards this idea that InSec and UZI are fighting because of the picks and the fact that UZI rage quit the second game, more or less. Where the picks that came out were Vayne, bottom lane, and Lucian jungle. Everyone starts thinking, okay, there's this huge Korean-Chinese war. It escalated to UZI and InSec having physical altercations. There were Weibo posts from Going and Clearlove both saying, guys, please don't fight, like, work it out. Stuff like that.
OMG, EDG fanning the flames, hoping that Starhorn
Yeah.
crashes and burns.
No, they're all trying to we gotta show these people that China is worth something, right? So, but the rumor is that there's some physical altercation. I think it was in part fanned by, like, that UZI gif, if no one's seen it, where he, like, kicks that, monsters that guy in the chest. It's pretty legit. But as far as I'm aware, there's, like, no confirmed evidence of physical altercation. There is confirmed evidence of, like, them arguing and them squabbling, and UZI was upset, and UZI being upset and rage quitting a game. But it's hard to sort of disentangle, like, whether the team actually hates each other or whether he's just upset because he lost another father figure. Like, you have to take into account that this guy, and everyone talks about how, oh, he's so immature, Reckles is much more mature. They're both 17, Reckles is so much more mature. Like, UZI left home at 15, right, to join Royal Club. He hasn't really had much education. He hasn't really had much interaction with his parents. He's now lost 2 father figures in a row. Like, give the guy a break. Seriously. Like, I don't understand.
We also have to talk about his track record in when Tabe retired, saying that no other support could ever support me, so I'm going to play mid, and I'm going to play Vayne in the mid lane. Let's not forget that short stint of cancer on Royal Club's resume. That was pretty awful. I don't know if you ever saw any of those games. That was awful.
And the other thing just is everyone keeps asking, is UZI going to Worlds? Is he going to Worlds? Is he going to? Yeah, he's going to Worlds. Ryan Lue talked to me a little bit ago. He did an interview with him. UCI is fine. Like, the team is fine. They're adjusting. It was just, I really think it was just like this thing where they were all stressed. They haven't been doing like super hot in scrims against Korean teams, which, no surprise. As far as I know, like Cola's friend posted Cola's statements on how they're doing against Korean teams on his Weibo, and like it was deleted 2 minutes later because Cola didn't want him to say that to people. So they haven't been doing so well against Korean teams. They're pretty stressed. They're trying to change their strategy to be more distribute the gold across the map centric, which makes sense. And they've already been doing this for a while. Like, if you watch their games, they're giving a lot more kill gold to Corn. Like, Nsec is going top and mid a lot more. So this isn't something that they're just suddenly, oh no, UZI, you can't be the star, and he's being a diva. It's just, they're stressed. That's about it.
So let's take. Oh, go Jackson.
I was just to say, I really hate the fact that it seems like EDG is like the only Chinese team going to Worlds that aren't going through like some freaking breakdown.
Yeah, pretty much. But who knows? Maybe this is just UZI has again track record of being a bit of a drama queen, which Kelsey kind of painted his backstory a little bit. So we'll see if they're able to show up.
I really don't think they'll be that affected. I think they're more like mentally affected by these rumors that they're not doing well against Koreans in scrims, and they thought they would do better against Koreans in scrims.
They have a Korean jungler and a Korean support. Why would they not be?
Obviously, they're
Korean
Koreans. Okay, so the Koreans on their team only allow them to get 2 kills, 1 for each. So.
Now, let's move to Group C. So, because a lot of people call this like the death group, or I called it like the gauntlet. You have what? Blue, OMG, Fnatic, and then little babies LMQ take up the back there. Let's talk about Blue LMQ making it out of this group. No, give me predictions. Like, obviously at Blue, yes. Can we all nod? Blue is the favorite to make it out of this group.
Yeah.
Who is taking
Blue?
second?
Blue will make it out undoubtedly. Oh, that is tough. I think I wanted to say OMG, but man, I don't know.
Well, okay,
World's saddest Fnatic is
let's change the question.
Where did this rumor come from?
She's gonna lose her shit. She like gets really mad about this. No, OMG at top performance. If OMG was playing how they played in week 7 or 8, if every team is playing at top performance, who makes it out? Top 2 teams. Like, not even OMG, but Fnatic as well.
Blue OMG.
Okay.
Yeah,
they probably run away with it.
Okay, Kelsey. Blue
OMG versus Fnatic is going to be a matchup of like who's more well prepared and mentally healthy.
This is how, and Kelsey will argue this for me. I actually think that Fnatic will make it out just because of OMG's. We're going to talk about their pitfalls and what's going on with them. And this is why I claim Fnatic will come out. And again, you guys can tell me, you can call bullshit on me if all you want. When I think about how Fnatic plays, I think about the Fnatic Death Brush. And I think about Leona. I think about a lot of Leona, obviously. No, I think about the Fnatic Death Brush. And I think about Fnatic's ability to make picks.
All-Star's only champion.
Only champion. It was on the LoL Esports page. If you go and look, it's like circled. No, thank you, LoL Esports. I think about the Fnatic Death Brush. I think about their ability to make picks. And who do I think about on OMG right now? I think of fucking Dada7 walking into bushes and just dying instantly.
Oh, that is a very good point.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that Fnatic versus OMG, it's going to be that asshole walking into every single goddamn face check brush. Doesn't matter if he's going to be on Thresh or Braum. And Fnatic's just going to be sitting in it and bam, 4v5. Let's go, boys. And I think that's going to be the story of the game. That it's going to be a 4v5 the entire time. OMG is never going to get a true 5v5 until Fnatic has, too far of a goal to lead, and Fnatic's just going to run away with it. And that's why I think Fnatic is going to unseat OMG here.
I feel like Fnatic hasn't played that way for like a year, though. Like, honestly.
You calm down, Leona.
No. I do feel like they haven't been able to get these picks. Like, that hasn't been their playstyle. Their playstyle has been brute forcing lane, and you want to talk about a team that's going to brute force most of the lanes better, right? OMG's top lane and OMG's mid, and then let's talk about Cyanide versus Loveling for a second. Like, I don't know. Yeah, their bottom lane is weak, and I do see like Fnatic winning that, but
I honestly don't
overall
even
for
think that
them-
bot lane matchup's going to be as like rough as
I
people
don't.
think.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be as rough, just because I know that Dota 7 and Sun are used to playing in a region where people think that they're really weak and they're easy targets, so they send their jungler down there like every 5 minutes, and they're
And I
used
mean,
to
also
playing
you have,
against that.
you have to think about how well they survived against in the bottom lane matchups against Starhorn too. So,
Well, if you
certainly
talk
the Fnatic
to-
bot lane started starting against Starhorn.
A certain individual on LOL Esports, okay, Yellow Star and Reckles is a better bottom lane.
Do they
than
have
UCI,
the
so-
potential to be
Oh man.
the best bot lane in the world?
Okay, but that's beside the point. I just think that, yeah, in theory, Fnatic plays this pick game, and Fnatic is gonna try to do that, but they haven't really been playing that way. And if we saw the last time they played at playoffs, it was just really, really bad. I don't know. That's my really professional assessment.
Shit-talked
I-
on
I-
Summoning
I look-
Insight. You ever talk
I
about
look
that?
at this game, and I think the question for me is simply that, like, just I put both rosters in between, like right next to each other. I give the nod to Reckless and Yellow Star in the bottom lane. Now, is it an emphatic nod? No. But then the question then becomes, does Reckless and Yellow Star's win, is that big enough to offset what I feel? I think Cool is going to beat this just tar out of Peke, and I'm not very high on Soaz. I haven't been high on Soaz for months. I think you can get to him that are unique, and you kind of have to, you kind of have to be willing to go there, and it's not extraordinarily sportsmanlike, but I played football. Like I've been in football for so long that it's like, oh, you're going to insult this and get him pissed off and make him play? Hell yeah, you do that. You do what you need to do to win. But aside from that whole mental aspect, I think Going is just a little better than Soaz. So the question is, does the bottom lane projected win for Fnatic outweigh the two projected wins in lane for OMG? And once you get to that point, it's like, I personally don't think that. I think Cool is going to have a grand old time with with Peke. And the point I was going to make is, if you remember, Cool fought Faker to a standstill in the Season 3 World Championship when Faker, you could say,
What are you
was
talking
near the
about?
height of
Chinese
his
teams
power.
didn't do anything. Why are you bringing up this Faker Cool matchup?
I know nothing.
They didn't take second at Worlds last year. EU is so much better. Damn it!
But no, when you talk about Cool, you're talking about a guy that has fought Faker to a standstill, and if Faker is the golden god of League of Legends, then if you can fight him to a standstill, you obviously have something going for you. Now, what it specifically is, I'll be honest, I haven't watched enough Cool games in the past year to say, but it's what, to me, if you want to throw around the transitive property, you're asking Xpeke to essentially go against a Faker derivative, and that's a tough matchup. So I don't think Peke is going to be able to withstand that. Now, the jungle Cyanide. Cyanide can do one of two things. He can be amazing or he can be god awful. There is no in between. Which Cyanide we get, that might decide the matchup. But I think looking at it just on paper, OMG has the advantage.
If Cyanide has anything going for him, it's the fact that I don't remember how recent the statistic is, but I do know that he did ward the most out of any jungler in European LCS, so that might work in their favor. I'm not sure. Or he bought the most wards, I should say.
Here comes the softball,
But-
Kelsey. Are you ready for it? But Fnatic always shows up at Worlds. They're the team that always goes hard on the paint. You can never count them down. They always show up.
I'm sorry to Fnatic fans, but I just don't understand where this comment comes from. And I will, like, people
From
who
the
say
one Worlds they did well at.
they
season
won.
one.
They
Come on
won
now.
Season 1 Worlds, Kelsey.
They won season 1. Okay, season
They're getting
1.
skins, therefore they are legitimate.
Everyone in season 1 didn't know how to play the game anyway. Like you see all these interviews with pros who played at season 1, and they're like, "Yeah, we had no idea what we were doing. We just kind of showed up and like played some champions and whatever." Like, this game was not serious. So saying that someone showed up at Worlds in season 1 is okay. Everyone showed up, whatever.
But don't
Except
Fnatic
for CLG.
consistently like
But
Top team at Worlds?
Fnatic didn't make it to Season 2, okay. They showed up at Season 3 in the sense that they looked significantly better in both the EU playoffs, before Worlds, and at Worlds than they did for the rest of the summer split. They played really well spring. So I don't know. I feel like this Fnatic didn't show up at playoffs, so they're already like low on that estimate. So there is no, I don't know where this thing came up. Fnatic always shows up at Worlds. Okay, Fnatic has kind of impressed people at one Worlds Championships. And then they say, well, according to that logic, no one has shown up at Worlds. No one has consistently shown up at Worlds. Yeah, that's true. It's a constantly changing and transitive game that's very different. Like, every time the meta is constantly evolving, altering. No team has consistently shown up at Worlds, and you can see that based on the fact that the team that wins one Worlds never shows up the next year.
So are you saying that Fnatic is not a top team in the world?
That may be what I said. I don't think that's what I said, but
I'm just...
I would agree to both statements.
I'm
I don't think
putting
that
in
they're
my
top
inner
team in the
Reddit.
world. I honestly don't think that any team that... I think there are several teams that aren't going to be there that are top teams in the world. Korean teams. And there are several teams that are going to be here that aren't top teams in the world. So
I think we need to redefine the Worlds tournament and what it means. This is not the best teams in the world. This is some of the best teams in the world. This is a regional tournament where other regions get to play each other. I don't think that it's fair to call the Worlds tournament all of the best teams in the world. As far as, like, rank 1 through...
No.
6? This is not rank 1 through 10.
Dark passages at Worlds and not KT arrows, okay? Like,
that's what I was saying. Like, I
SKT,
feel like a definition, that's not what a lot of people understand, because you have such a big disparity between the fan expectations of the Western and the Eastern scenes. Like, I feel that there are legitimately a lot of fans that look at this tournament and say, these are the top, there's 16 teams, 12 teams? 12 teams?
16.
16.
These are the top 16 teams in the world. I think that there are honestly people who...
Oh yeah, I'm sure the casual viewer does feel that way. And I mean...
That's how it's been billed. Can you blame the casual viewer for that?
But
I can't
why
personally.
is it being billed that way? Because I feel like it's that marketing strategy that is why people tell me all day how fucking stupid I am and how stupid China is and how... people will go and watch it. These teams suck. Like, what the fuck? And even if we were to take the top 16 teams, I would only think that a few Chinese teams would still even make that bill.
But I mean, like, you can't blame Riot here because I don't think people would want to watch the best 16 teams.
I didn't say Riot, sir. Don't put words in my mouth.
Okay, no, I'm just...
I would like to watch...
I'm just saying, I would love to see this, but, like, top 16 teams, like, if you go into any Reddit thread that discusses this, people would be like, if I wanted that, I'd just watch OGN, like, legit, that's what they'll say, so...
Well, just look at the commentary that we get on LoL Esports for power ranking stuff. Oh, this is overrated. Oh, this is overrated. You can't put this. Da-da-da-da-da. It's like, what? No? I mean, give me a reason to say that we think we're overrated, aside from the fact that we rate Korean teams highly. So I can't blame. I think blame's the wrong word. I think this is the natural progression of wanting to market your game globally. It is sort of unfortunate that you don't have a KT Arrows or an SK Telecom T1K, but at the same time, looking at the games we've got, I'm going to kind of take the glass half full mentality and be like, these are going to be some good games. I'm going to be entertained. I watch this for the entertainment value. Therefore, I'm okay with the tournament structure.
I say that we hold a pre-Worlds in which we invite all teams, all the top teams in all the regions except for Korea. And they duke it out. And the winner of that team gets to go to OGN and get slaughtered.
Oh, jeez.
Or just have a post-Worlds tournament called IPL 6. It'll be brilliant.
I just want a tournament where we invite every single team, and we just see who makes it out.
Oh, gosh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I want to see Samsung Blue play against an NA Challenger team.
Yep.
Oh, come on, let's be honest. NA Challenger teams are probably better than Dark Passage, so...
Okay, that's fair. There's Samsung White is playing an NA Challenger team in Worlds this year,
yeah,
so...
essentially. Like, literally, Dark Passage got crushed, like, by, like, a friend of mine's, team. They're not called GSI anymore, but that's what they used to be called. And they're high up on the European ladder, but they're by all means just an amateur European team, and they got slaughtered.
Oh,
And I'm just like, holy cow! And like this team that slaughtered them got slaughtered by gamers too. So it's like, it kind of puts into perspective where Dark Passage might be. It's like, man.
Drexen, these
That's
are the best
something.
teams in the world. Alliance is going to make the finals.
Dude, that'd be
Yeah.
pretty good storyline.
think
There's so
it
much
was a
potential
quick
for good
shot.
storylines, I feel. And that's why it's kind of
Yeah,
a shame that Samsung White and Blue might have to meet in the semifinals. But
You don't think that
It's
they
a
have
shame
good
that
storylines?
no, I think they do have good
Oh.
storylines, but they can't
It's-
possibly meet in the finals unless something
It's a
goes
shame
horribly
that there are so many potentials for good storylines, and none of them will happen. So,
wrong.
Okay, back to
Alright.
back to Group C. We talked about, what was the last question? We said if every team was playing at top peak performance, you guys would give it to OMG and Blue to make it out.
yes.
Everyone, yes, nod, shake your head. Okay. OMG playing like shit right now. Pitfalls. Let's just cover this. They're playing a support that should not be in the game. Everyone wants Cloud back. Everyone wants. I'd take Pomelo at this point.
Oh yeah, me too, for sure.
Data Sevens, he face checks into bushes. He only plays 2 champions. Like, he plays 1 champion that's Thresh, and he can play it semi-well, but he still face checks into bushes, even though he has, like, a fucking lantern that he can just throw into the bush and make sure that he's clear there. They put him on Braum. Like, this is legit their strategy. They're like, okay, this guy just walks
The
into the
Kiwi
enemy
quid
team.
effects.
We'll put him on Braum. So
jeez.
if he walks into someone, he, like, won't die. So that's OMG's problem.
he's undefeated on Braum.
He's undefeated on Braum. They have serious mental, emotional, something is going on in that team where the guys are just, they look very upset. Like, it shows cameras of OMG after they win or lose a game, and like Son and Cool's heads will be like down on the desk. There's like a fly like right in my face. Like, they just look really defeated. Let's talk about how Son and Data 7 have a reputation that they've already beat TSM's bot lane, or the past TSM bot lane. X Special and Wild Turtle.
The artificially boosted TSM bot lane, in which Triforce was ridiculously good, and X Special was still like on the team.
But
Well, I don't think you can undersell what Lustboy is. Lustboy is a very
Lustboy's
solid
good,
sport.
but-
I mean, if
Yeah,
you
he
want
is.
to, if you break down the TSM C9 best of 5, one of the cornerstones of TSM's comeback was the fact that Lustboy was able to do a fabulous job getting vision. I mean, that was.
Braum
If you look at,
flash.
do what?
When he flashed on Braum to block,
Yeah,
it was
Oh, yeah.
beautiful.
but
That's
like even individual mechanical skill, like what happened? How did TSM tilt high in that game? And high tilted. He got picked.
Oh my god, he tilted.
Like he got straight up picked because TSM outvisioned Cloud9. Let me say that again for emphasis. TSM outvisioned Cloud9, and the bedrock of that was Lustboy. Now I said so I think that you need to be careful when you say the artificially boosted bot lane. But yes, I see what you're saying.
Let's
I don't know. I still really am high on X Special, but we'll see.
let's rank Lustboy. I know you guys hate ranking Lustboy, but let's do it. Let's rank Lustboy in the supports that are attending Worlds. Let's take Mata and let's just take Mata off of that. So of course we're gonna give Mata number 1.
What?
Well, okay, fine. Who's contending?
No, I thought you meant like leave him out of the rankings.
Oh no. Well, of course we're gonna give Mata number 1. Give me.
Korean guy was about to throw a fit, just so we're clear.
Thomas is like, no, no.
I
Mata is
refuse.
number 1. Give me how far down do we have to go before Lustboy is the top support?
Ooh.
Supports at Worlds.
Yeah, supports at Worlds.
I need to like
Let's
type
think
this
of.
out.
We got I'm telling Yellow Star,
Mata,
Yellow
Yellow
Star, and Yellow Star. You have N-rated, Data 7, Zero, Lustboy.
See, this one's tough because
More.
Heart.
This one's tough because these supports do such different things for their teams. Like, I would put N-rated probably a little higher than most because N-rated is the tactical mind behind SK in
So who are
many
you putting
cases.
second? Are you gonna put N-rated?
No, I'm not putting N-rated second. I'm just saying.
Where's Heart?
I think I would probably put
Where's Gorilla?
Heart second. No, I would put Heart second just because beyond Gorilla's Thresh, he's not amazing. He's just kind of he's there. He's a good Korean support. But if you give Gorilla Thresh, suddenly he turns into this golden god that just carries Najin White Shield in many ways. And then Prag's gonna blow me up for saying that, but that's okay.
I just want to get Anne Prague. I want to get her like a diamond Rolex studded with like watch's face on the face, and just have it like give her a watch that is watch.
Give her an OMG scarf.
Oh
She will
my
burn it in
God.
effigy.
A watch.
A watch.
There you go. Watch.
Watch is watch.
I think I will put.
She like
Lost
stopped
Boys
what she was
6.
doing. She's like, someone's talking about watch. Like her senses tingle.
There you go.
I have Lost Boy at 6th, I think.
What? Oh, give me your go. Give me
Well,
your
in no
list.
particular order above them,
What?
I have Mata.
How do you get like watch or Lust Boy at 6 and have no particular order above him?
Because I think that Mata, Yellow Star, Heart Gorilla, and Zero are all better supports. Definitely.
Okay.
I can buy that.
And Rated wasn't in there.
Well,
I mean, Unrated is a good support, but I mean, if we're talking about the best in the world, like those are my top 6, I guess.
and again, within rated, how do you rate being kind of like the tactical, the engine there? He's not, his mechanics scare absolutely nobody. It's that if SK Gaming does something very like tactically and strategically relevant on the Rift, that's probably coming from N-rated. But you know, that to me is a different category. So I'm kind of shying away from that.
How he had a list of top 6, and 4 of those players on the top 6 were Korean. And you know, we're not talking about
Korean
mechanics.
supports are god, man.
Why is that? Is it strategic or is it mechanics? Where do we obviously strategic is going to be like the big fundamental thing for like Koreans, but I don't know. I feel like no one's pushed back on me for this yet. Like the skill cap ceiling for Eastern players, I think, is higher than most Western players. I think that there are very few Western players who I would say can compete, which is why I have a big issue with Lowell Esports Top 20. I think that's a little bizarre because the skill cap of most of those players in the rankings is like really bizarre to me. Check your phone.
It's about an hour from the next rankings. Get ready to set your watches for the Twitter explosion.
Yeah.
What are we at? No,
Today's is gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Wait, is it number
I just
9?
want to say.
Yeah, 9 and 8, I think, or
It's
8
8
and 7.
and 7
Okay.
7's gonna be bad, guys. So you know.
Well,
that's all
I mean,
can say.
let's put it this way: 1 is going to start up a huge fight,
If
no matter
it's
how
not
you slice it.
Dade at number 1, I would freak out. And Kelsey and I actually had this conversation on the train where what were we arguing about? I was arguing that I think Dada has to be, excuse me, not Dada. Dada has to be number 1 because
Dada.
Dada's number 1. He has to be number
The god
1
of
because
season
like
4.
I just can't get over that accomplishment. He has like 2 OGN finals. Like that's the best region in the world. Like most competitive. Like only 6 people have that, and it's funny because Pumandu is one of those 6 people. So.
Watch
I think
Dada
it's-
just show up and like wreck people. That would be hilarious.
I think it's on point too because Blue is in this group that we're actually supposed to be talking about.
Dade's skill is very hard to recognize for a casual viewer because their only experience, if they're only watching International and NA or something, would be last year's Worlds where he didn't show up. So
Where he played Gragas and
I can understand where people would find it hard to believe that Dade deserves that number 1 spot, but
That's
think-
always my thing with like looking at him historically is, yeah, it's amazing he's got 2 OGN titles, but at the same time, like he couldn't get out of group stage at Worlds. Like that's kind of damning, right? Worlds is like, eh.
it balances it, but I think the best indicator of his present skill set, I go to the KT Arrows Samsung Blue Game 5, where it was Yasuo v Yasuo, and KTA was up 12,000 gold. You know, not an insignificant amount of gold. And thanks to Dade being able to save his last breath for a critical moment in 2 straight team fights, about as pressure-packed a situation and as small a window to get an ultimate off as you have in the game, he correctly picked it. And suddenly, when KTA was dominating Blue battled back to a 6k gold deficit in what amounts to a mirror match in like 3 positions. Dade's Yasuo, if it will be a strategic mistake if any team lets Dade have Yasuo. I don't care if they counterpick it with Ryze. Dade will win. He is
about-
that good on Yasuo.
What? It's a mirror match Yasuo Xiao Wei Xiao versus Dade? Like, what are you...
Oh God, I'm not going
Here's
here.
What are
But
you
here's
talking
the-
about,
like,
Thomas?
no one is arguing that Dade isn't like the best mid laner right now. But that's just my thing. It's just the historical thing.
Yeah, well, that's why I said just if you want to talk about Dade's recent skill, I think that's the biggest indicator that he is just he's not above the curve, but he's at the absolute top of the curve in terms of mid laners coming into the tournament. That's all. That was my premise.
I want to talk about specific matchups, even though I think we're all... Although, no, we aren't. Second team, who's coming out? I say Fnatic. I think it's Blue Fnatic, because I think OMG have kind of defeated themselves before they got off the plane. Although I hear they're doing well in scrims, and they're very excited about this.
I'll be honest, I haven't kept up with the OMG drama as closely as the rest of the panel.
The team is like just tearing itself apart. They're like they have zero confidence. Just think about like zero confidence in themselves.
If you at least saw the LPL Grand Finals, you can see how bad OMG is at their lowest point. Because holy shit, that was really bad.
But we're saying that, and they're in the fucking finals. Like the fact that we're saying like OMG is playing probably worse than they've ever played, and they are the third seed for China at Worlds. Like the competition that they had to beat.
But like
That's
I said,
the
I feel
thing.
like they did a lot better at regionals than they did in the LPL finals.
And this is what I'll get to with people on where it's like even if on this top 20 players at Worlds, even if all top 15 were taken by Koreans, all three of OMG's top jungle and mid would still be on that list because I feel like they're still the best players in their roles in China because on a player, like on a skill ceiling level, on a player by player basis, just the player himself, OMG's team has like a ridiculously high skill ceiling, and that's the thing that right now is helping them because we have a game where at the regionals we saw a game where Going went off on Rise and carried. We saw a game where Cool went completely off on Ari and had like a 17-1 score. We even saw a game where Son like 15-1 on Kog'Maw, like any of, and then like in the scrims we
Is his
in the
Kog'Maw
one
undefeated?
league. I might be. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it's lost one game or so. But like his Kog'Maw's really good. But and then even Drug in regionals, we saw Drug like win those games for them because he would go in with the deep wards and kept solo killing Insect like over not regionals playoffs. Kept solo killing Insect over and over again. So any player on OMG has this potential to like brute force a game, and that's how they'll win against Fnatic, in my opinion. But just because they have that ability to do it
So
on so many fronts.
who are you gonna give it to? Who's your second seed?
We've said this. I've said OMG.
You said OMG. You're still gonna go with OMG. Jackson?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Come on, because I gotta talk about LMQ OMG. We gotta
You're
talk
right.
about the parent.
I'll go. Oh fucking A. I'll just go with OMG.
I'm the only person doubting OMG here.
No,
I feel bad now.
I'm getting close to the Fnatic bandwagon because
Yeah, same here. It's
I
very
think
very.
Fnatic
close.
can do it.
well, it's one of those things where I didn't know the depths of the OMG drama. I admit that if listeners, if viewers want to knock me for that you're absolutely welcome to. But
See, like,
it sounds like OMG is losing before they even get on the Rift at this point. And I'm not talking about champ select. I'm talking about mentally, and that's a big issue.
That is a problem. Like, for sure. I'm not even arguing that, but
like,
and I
man,
think the fact that, in particular, the group stage are best of ones is a problem. But I think about it, and it's just, do I think that Fnatic, the way they've been playing, which I actually think the way Fnatic's been playing has been very similar to OMG, not in terms of the team being, like, falling apart, but in terms of what they're trying to do with, like, brute forcing lanes. I don't think Fnatic will win that.
yeah, and see, and I'm also looking at it from like OMG's 2 games against each respective team in the group, and I'm like, well, just mid and top alone will probably be able to carry the majority of those games. I can't really say the same about any particular Fnatic lanes brute forcing their way to victory
I know,
in
but you're
their
talking
respective
about
matches.
Teke and Soaz. Like that's
But so
not...
I was like in his prime, sure, man. Hey man, remember one time I rated SOAS above PDD and I got so much shit for it. But no, seriously, like I'm not even just specifically thinking about the OMG versus Fnatic matchup, and that's why I kind of give OMG the edge, is just because I think in their matches against like LMQ and Fnatic that they'll have better brute force capability and just like out skill in general, just because they're top half of the map. And then like San and Dada, as much shit as we give them, like they do fine holding off against very, very good bottom lanes. Like as long as they just like survive, they can do what they need to do. And like Dada obviously will get picked off, and I'm sure that will hurt the team. But I mean, San does what he needs to do in team fights. He's not like fantastic, but he does the job he needs to do, and I think that's enough to get out of this group personally.
Why are we not? Why is no one talking about LMQ? Why do we think that LMQ doesn't stand a chance at all?
Man,
Showy
did you
is
watch
better than Go Going.
Did you watch?
Okay.
Did you watch
I
the
just
regionals,
don't wanna
dude? I
put that
don't
out.
even know. Like, they were so
They're
bad on.
they're
Tilted
the
regionals.
hybrid
No
of
way.
NA and Chinese strategy. Drax
No,
and
they
Larry.
aren't.
Yeah, we call that the bastard offsprings.
They're not though. Like they're not even. I don't know. I feel like they play the way China used to play.
I feel like they play like Invictus Gaming.
I can't. I don't know. I don't see it. Just like LMQ looked so bad in playoffs. Like I honestly really think they did. Like I'm surprised they got third. I mean,
Showy is better than Go Going.
are you intentionally using the wrong lanes?
Well, it's LOL Esports. Showy is right.
I love the fact that we're thrashing LOL Esports as it's me with the LOL Esports tag under his name.
Come on, Thomas.
Doesn't the majority
Jeez.
of our panel work for LOL Esports?
Yeah, literally half of the panel is LOL Sports.
This is curious.
It's our fault.
Yep.
guys.
How dare you
Uh,
rank going underneath Xiao Wei Xiao?
Yeah, LMQ. I don't see it, man.
It's tough to believe that LMQ is going to pull out of.
Is this a strategic thing? Are
There-
you guys just totally writing them off because LMQ just...
No, it's not. It's not just strategy. Like there
So
is
it's
no
mechanics as
way.
well?
There
Star
there
power?
is no way with No Name in his current state that they can win against best teams in the world. It's no way. Like think about how badly No Name played in those playoffs. Like holy shit, that was really really bad.
You can argue that No Name single-handedly lost the TSM series. Yes, TSM played amazing, but there were some games where No Name, like, what was it?
Yes,
What was
that
this? Eh?
played amazing.
I didn't even mean to make that pun. I'm an unintentional freak. Anyway, the stat was like No Name over the last 3 games of the LMQ TSM series. He was like 2-25 or something just god awful. So I completely agree that LMQ is not there, and I kind of. Again, if there's one thing you'll pull from being in this conversation with me, it's that I'm big on the mental side of things. I want to see where your preparation is, where your process is, where your head is before you get in the game. And I can't escape that the team has been sort of nosediving since they had all that ownership coach stuff that, again, I don't know the specific stuff. I just know it happened. And when something like that happens, it's gonna reverberate, but it's not gonna be bad for the first couple of weeks. But then they get to regionals, and it was like, oh my god, this doesn't even look like the same team. Now, can they fix those issues? Yes, they can. They've had some time to practice, but
They've been practicing
going
in
off,
China.
exactly. But going off recent results, do you suddenly think that they're going to pull out of that nosedive and be competitive for against the other 3 teams? I still think that's a stretch. That's where I am with LMQ right now.
Can we all agree that Fnatic, OMG, and LMQ are just kind of disappointing right now because they don't look as good as they did earlier? Like, I don't know.
I can buy that.
I agree, but I think LMQ is like the worst out of them
Do we
because
need to
I'd say
rename this group?
I disagree with my
The
own
slump?
opinion. If
Different degrees
OMG
of
played as badly at the regionals as they did at the LPL finals, I'd be like, okay, they're all kind of doing equally as poorly, but just like LMQ's, oh my god, Ackerman and No Name. Ackerman not as much, but like No Name was just like, I really have no idea what he was doing or what's wrong with him, because it was bad. Like, and I mean, he's never really been a standout jungler, but it's never been that bad either, where he just gets like hammered by Amazing, you know? I don't know.
Group D. This is going to be Alliance, Najin, totally spacing the last 2 teams.
Cloud9,
Kaboom.
Kaboom.
There
and
we
Cloud9.
go. I was like, it's a wild card team. Why am I not remembering? It's the important one too. Brazilians.
Kaboom.
Cloud9. Yeah. Okay. I think this group is interesting. I am super excited for the Alliance.
You're not qualified to talk about this group because
Cloud9
there are
group.
no Chinese teams.
The LPL shotcaster taken off board. Talk to me. Who's coming out of just initial 2, and then we can break it down. Thomas, and then we'll go from Thomas to Kelsey to Drexen. So Thomas, top 2 teams coming out of this.
Najin White Shield and Alliance is who I have coming out of this group.
Kelsey?
Yeah. Gonna go with that.
Drexen?
Yeah, Nigel White Shield and Alliance.
Okay, so total consensus that Alliance is going to... Because I feel like it's obvious that Najin's going to rise out.
Well, I think you have to. The real competition here is between Cloud9 and Alliance, and in order to put Cloud9 ahead of Alliance, to build that argument, you almost have to preface it off of Cloud9 fixed some of the very obvious issues that they had against TSM. And do I think they can? Yes. I think Cloud9's competitive process, by and large, is, if not the best in the West, the second best. You can argue about where they stand with Alliance in that respect. But it's still a pretty large fix because there were some very bad mental lapses by Cloud9. If they can fix that, I think Cloud9 Alliance might be the best 2 games coming out of the group stage, to be honest with you. But I'm going to give, given what we've recently seen from Alliance, and I realize that is now a month out of date, I have to give the nod to Alliance.
Kelsey Jackson?
For me, it's the same thing.
What are
actually
give me the win
surprised...
conditions for both. Like Cloud9, for them to win or to beat Alliance, what needs to happen? Alliance, for them to beat Cloud9, what needs to happen?
Can we just bar her from saying win conditions anymore?
Well, the thing is, I feel like Alliance needs to, and I said this before because I think it's like a good answer in gauging who has a higher percentage chance to win, is I feel like Alliance is a lot more or a lot less to fix to win that matchup than Cloud9. I still do believe that Cloud9's the best North American team, but their how do I say this? Their mental fortitude was surprisingly unsettling in their final matchup. Like when the series went long against TSM, they played very uncharacteristically to their typical playstyle, which is very concerning to me. Like they literally forgoed free objectives that absolutely would not have had it drawn back. Like there was times where they were just having standoffs against TSM. And like a Baron would literally be free because Wild Turtle would be bottom or something. They just wouldn't go. Like they literally just didn't take things for free, and they cannot get away with that against Alliance. Like I'd say peak versus peak, I'd say Cloud9 is a better chance, but just given off what we've seen, the most recent from both teams, Alliance looks like they have the edge.
Bravo.
And I think that's all you can really say. Again, on paper, it's an extraordinarily even match. And looking at the Group D matches, Cloud9 versus Alliance is the second match out the gate. So we'll have a real good feeling for both of those teams at that point really, really early in that group rotation. But it's just like, I never in my life, if you had asked me if I saw High would tilt as bad as he did, I would have never thought that happened. Now that I've seen it, as a thinker, as an Alliance, as a member of Alliance, I have to wonder, can I send Shook mid often with our best player Froggen, get, pop 2 quick kills on High, and suddenly High starts to tilt? Because High is the leader of that team. He is the team captain. He does a lot of the setup in terms of vision, and he's such an integral part of that team that what happens when you take one of the biggest cogs and break it? Or if not break it, get it a little out of phase with the rest of the team. That's a very, very bad witch's brew for winning a game.
How far do you guys think Alliance will go? So we've put them out of group stage. Where are they going all the way to the finals? Are they going all the way to the semifinals, quarterfinals? Like where are you going to end their train?
Let's assume
this is the white hope, so be careful.
Let's assume that they get second in Group D. They would play the first in Group C, which is Samsung Blue. Samsung Blue, I said this once earlier in their show, I'm going to say it again. Samsung Blue does what Alliance does, but does it better. Does it a lot better. This would be a 3-0 sweep, and it would probably be barely an hour and 20 minutes of game time on the Rift. Samsung Blue would smash Alliance. And my Twitter's about to explode because of that. But that's what I think, quite frankly. So no, they're done at the quarters.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say quarters is about as far as they'd make it. But
I
I
agree.
will say that there is it's not impossible for them to make semis. It's just very unlikely.
I do.
Likewise,
impossible.
we're killing OMG then, or what do you guys think about the OMG versus Najin?
OMG is gonna die.
I think
Good night, sweet prince.
Okay.
I think fans that have not watched Najin White Shield over the past year are in for a huge treat because Save is the best top laner in this tournament, and it's
And Going is not going to be able to brute force save. That is
Yeah.
going to be the one thing that they're going to not be used to, I feel.
and say like Save. You know, people ask me. You can ask me for a specific example, and I'm actually going to go to about.
Theoretically, anyway, sorry.
I understand, but I'm going to go about 6 months ago, and I believe it was a Masters game. This was when Najin White Shield was still kind of coming together. They hadn't gone in their crazy run where they make the finals and they were favored against Blue, but Najin White Shield was behind, and through and Save was just literally like you could see it in his head. It was like, chill the fuck out, guys. Pardon my French. I got this. And he drags the team back, not by out farming a la Flame, but by split pushing and map pressure on the other side of the map. So you had this kind of like yin and yang ping ponging where the 4 people of Najin White Shield would show up and the team that they were playing would rotate to stop him and Save would get a tower. And he would split push and pressure, and the other team couldn't stop it. They were just completely hosed,